This will be a previous quick tutorial from the previous one, working on the previous one that we just sent an Ajax request to a CFC and we printed back the data on the console. This one will be to do something with this data. I'm just going to show JQuery's clone function. Say we have to fill this wrapper and these div classes, div class. Now, since we just have a username and a password right now, I'm just gonna style it rather quickly. Class equals. I'm just gonna put a border around the user wrap div, and then so there we're just putting a border around this user wrap and then have two different styles on this pass text. The only thing I'm trying to show is that if you have one div that you need to duplicate and you have a lot of different styles inside of it and you're trying to do, you would usually see something like jQuery.each, and you would go through each of your user wrap divs and have something like this on the HTML side, right? And then you would just go inside here and fill out the data from this loop, maybe. Either way, this is just a different way of doing that. A better way, I would say, using JQuery's .clone function. So what we're going to do is that we're just going to have one of these user wrap divs out, and just to show you, just to test that the styling's good. Alright, so we just have, this is the user wrap div with a border around the entire div with the user text and the pass text. I'm just going to change the color of the password text. Okay, there. So what we're going to do is on document ready, we're going to create a clone of that div and we're going to store it into a variable. We're going to use jQuery user wrap clone true. So now we're storing everything that's inside this div, even the name and both of these p tags. We're storing that into this variable div clone. So now that we have it in a div clone, we can remove it from the scene, from the stage. So now when we run this, we should be just left with our button, right? Once we have this, now we can use this as a mold for all our data coming back to build out our div objects in that way. So right here we have all the object data. So inside that loop, I'm just going to make a clone of our mold, of our first div clone. I'm going to call it new div equals div clone.clone true. So here we're working with a new div that's has all this information inside of it. So in order to change the information inside of it per iteration of this loop, we're going to say new div jQuery new div dot find p dot what was it called, user text. Okay, that's going to find that p tag in there, and it's going to set it to value, and here we're just going to put object dot user, since we have the data is already being parsed up here. And then we're going to do the same exact thing for the pass text. Object.pass. And that's about it. Now we're just going to append that to our results div. New div. So now when we run this, we're not going to see anything, but the divs gets automatically cloned into that variable we created, and then it gets removed from the stage. Once we hit this button, it's going to go into that for loop, and then it's going to build out our objects, our divs basically, dynamically using that mold that we created. The only thing is that it's not changing the actual value of the test, of the name and the password for some reason. New div, user app, user text. Maybe not the value. I'm trying to think about forms there. Could do HTML object. Since this is not working, this is not working. We'll just check if the user gets changed. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I was still thinking in forms and select boxes. So instead of using the VAL, use the .html object.pass, and then everything else stays the same. So now when we run it, and then we click the div box, we should get how about we switch that to pass? Okay, there we go. So again, very simple example of using div.clone, but it's extremely useful when you have a whole lot of data coming back. You're not gonna have to write. You know, it's pretty clean. You know, you only have the divs that you're gonna clone. That's the only HTML that you need. You style that one div, and then you just duplicate that div across your app.